Locals actually call it the suicide tree. So, don't eat it.
Today we are taking a deep dive into the trailer of the 8th episode of the Season 3 finale of The White Lotus. Now, after episode 7 left us with a night full of drugs, sex, and violence, we've got only one episode left to find out who's making it back home from what should have been a great vacation, but instead it became a trip filled with drama and regrets, and someone will end up dead. There is a lot to break down this trailer, so with all that being said, spoiler warning from the previous episodes alongside my theories and predictions based on this very trailer. Now, the title of the episode is Amor Fati, which is a Latin phrase that may be translated as love of fate or love of one's fate. It is also used to describe an attitude in which one sees everything that happens in one's life, including suffering and loss, as good or at the very least necessary. Now, the synopsis of this episode reads, on their last night in paradise, Lori, Jacqueline, and Kate are forced to reckon with their changes in their decades-long friendship. Belinda and Zion negotiate a deal that could secure her future. Gaitak shares his plans with a disappointed Mook, and Timothy comes up with a shocking plan for his family. Now, we open this trailer with someone spraying the area with what I assume is incest propellant or some type of chemical that keeps the bugs and mosquitoes away from bothering their guests. Now, I would assume that this happens first thing in the morning before all the areas that are occupied by the guests are being used. So I wonder if this smoke that's being created plays into the inevitable shootout that we know is coming, which would make it hard for those that are involved in the shootout to see who they're shooting out, which could lead to an accidental death. Now, I've been talking about the suicide tree being important since the first episode of this season, and I've also shared my thoughts on how Timothy would be using the poison fruit to kill his family, and this shot seems to be showing just that. As we see Timothy talking to Pam and getting the confirmation that the fruit is indeed as deadly as she said it was when showing the Ratliff family their villa, as we watch him pull one of the fruits from the tree. Now, knowing this season is all about spirituality and religion, it is a very interesting kind of metaphor of taking the forbidden fruit, and again, I believe this fruit will be key in the finale. Here we get a shot of Greg's pool, followed by seeing him with people behind him. Now, he may be having another get-together at his house, maybe after Saxon's rejection of sleeping with Chloe and Greg watching, maybe he's throwing like an audition party to find another guy to do the deed to make his fantasy come true. Now, here we have this overhead shot of what looks to be the White Lotus, and here we see Our Lady sitting out by the pool. Now, this could be the following day after their fight at dinner and Lori's night with Alexei. Obviously not having any context to when exactly this happens in the episode, but by looking at their body language, it appears that they have yet to make up, or at the very least, they haven't had a real conversation about their issues with one another. Now, here we get some more quick shots of Gaitak in his uniform. I'm assuming that he's at work, and that's followed by Belinda with a look of concern while she's laying in bed. Now, I would imagine this is her after waking up and making a decision whether or not to take that offer from Greg. Now, like a lot of you all mentioned in my breakdown, I 100% agree with you all that $100,000 isn't enough. If we do see Belinda decide to take that bribe or that hush money later on in the finale, I hope she counters him with at least $500,000 to $1 million. I mean, come on, the man's house is spectacular, the yacht is ridiculous, and I just hope that if she does take this money, which I don't think she will, but if she does, I hope she asks for a lot more. Next, we get more quick shots of Rick getting on the elevator with his bag, assuming that he's leaving Bangkok. We have Frank here who's praying, most likely asking for forgiveness from the previous night of fun. Now, selfishly, I hope Frank has a big role in the finale because he's such a fun character and I love Sam Rockwell so much. And if we do see Frank going back to Thailand with Rick, maybe he's going to be in the action with the shootout, and there's actually a scene later in this trailer that might point to that. Now, here we see Mook with her arms crossed, and I think this is probably in the same scene with Gaitak. Now, going back to what the synopsis says, maybe he tells her about knowing who robbed the hotel and she's encouraging him to take action, but he's hesitant, and her crossing her arms and having this look of disgust is maybe because he's not willing to do anything about it. Here we have Saxon looking up at someone, assuming it's someone from his family, and finally we cut to Pam, who, after reminding Timothy how dangerous the fruit is, she tells him not to eat it. Now, that was just our first 18 seconds of the trailer, and the next portion we want to get into here adds more dialogue to the trailer and gives us more context to theorize about. From here, we see Belinda and her son in Greg's living room, and she's not going to do it, referring to what I assume is talking about the money. I have a feeling that maybe Zion will secretly take the money and try to convince his mom later that everything's going to be okay and this whole situation is going to take care of itself. Again, whether it's Zion or Belinda, I hope they get more than $100,000, but again, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Now here we have Gaitak praying as we have the subtitles showing him telling his supervisor that he's got something to tell him. Now the supervisor responds by asking if it has anything to do with the robbery, and that's cut between us seeing a shot of Valentine. Now, will Gaitak share his suspicions with his supervisor, or will he first approach Valentine and try to de-escalate the situation and try to convince him to return the stolen jewelry? And in doing that, I would imagine Gaitak wants to avoid any trouble because we know his stance against violence. Now again, I think Gaitak's going to talk to Valentine first before he talks to his supervisor. Based on this shot here, it seems like there's some tension between two characters. There's definitely a vibe that there was a conversation between them, and I don't think it's going to be a conversation that ended well, and maybe Valentine even threatens Gaitak. Now in this shot with Valentine, you notice that Fabian is greeting and shaking the hand of a guy. Now this could just simply be him welcoming a new guest at the hotel, but based on what looks to be a security guard in the front of the van and also the back of these people's head, I think it's safe to assume that that's Shatala and Jim returning to their hotel. Now if this is indeed Jim and Shatala, are they here returning to their hotel to confront Rick, who they last saw flipping Jim on the floor and being tricked by him, and they're here to get their revenge? Or again, I know the theory that a lot of you all share is that a lot of you all believe that Jim's going to be revealed to be Rick's dad, so could he be here to actually reveal that to Rick? Now based on this shot here, which is a nighttime scene, we see someone performing, it's safe to assume that the finale is going to take place over 2 days.
I love you.
Now here's the interesting part. We have Chelsea saying I love you, and that's cut between her jumping into Rick's arms. Now it looks like Rick is happy to see her, and he could be coming back from his trip from Bangkok after getting his closure, and he seems to be a changed man. And the reason I say he seems to be a changed man is because we finally see him showing some love and affection towards Chelsea. Now, could this be a dream sequence, because it's immediately followed by Chelsea looking emotional and asking for Rick to not do anything stupid, and you also notice she's wearing different clothes from that previous scene. Now, the shot of them hugging could be in the morning. It could be him returning from Bangkok. It might not be a dream sequence. I think he might actually see Jim. He sees that he's arrived back to the hotel, and knowing Rick, he probably immediately thinks that he's here to get back at him from their last encounter. Which again could set up this big misunderstanding where we might see Jim confronting him and maybe admitting that he is his father, or at the very least tells him that he has nothing to do with his father's death and he wants to have a mature conversation with Rick. But again, Rick is in that mindset like, I just flipped the guy's chair over, I made up this whole fake director situation. So maybe Rick right now is thinking the worst possible scenario. Now here we see Rick telling Chelsea that he's gonna be okay, and it's cut between him walking out of the room with the bag in his hand. Now us hearing him saying the lines to Chelsea that he's going to be okay, and then being overlaid with a shot of him walking out of what seems to be a hotel room with the bag over his shoulder, I think these are two different scenes. Like, this may be one scene of him, again, leaving Bangkok and then going to Thailand and having a conversation with Chelsea. Or, again, maybe he just got invited to speak with Jim, and maybe, again, knowing that he is maybe on the fence and maybe nervous and wants to prepare himself, he might have a gun in that bag. Now, throughout the trailer, we see the monkeys, and this being an example. We have one of the local monkeys sitting on top of a tree, and I am very much still in the camp that the monkeys will have some big role in whatever happens in the shootout. I very much believe that it's possible that one of the monkeys gets a hold of the gun and starts firing shots and hits one of our main characters. Again, if you think about earlier on in the season, we got all these kind of, I don't want to say random, but we kept cutting away and seeing these monkeys observing our characters, watching our characters. So I do have a feeling that they're going to be key in the finale, and it wouldn't shock me again if they get their hands on one of the guns. Now here we have Jacqueline asking a mystery person who I'm assuming is Kate, but it could be someone else. Maybe she's talking to Valentine. But in this moment, she asks this mysterious person if they've heard or seen Lori. Which, speaking of Lori, our very next shot is of Lori looking down from a distance at Jacqueline and Kate in a swimming pool. Now, based on this shot of Lori looking down at her two so-called friends, and also based on their last interaction at the dinner table, I'm led to believe that Lori's going to come to the realization that she really never connected with these ladies, and she really never looked at them as real friends. I've always believed since the first episode that Lori was kind of an add-on to the friend group, and she doesn't share the same connection that Kate and Jacqueline have, especially when you think about in the earlier episodes where Jacqueline revealed to Kate that she hasn't talked to Lori in years over the phone. So again, based on that synopsis I read to you all earlier about the whole reckoning of them addressing their friendship over the decades, I think that Lori's going to finally say, I'm done with y'all, I never really liked y'all, and she's going to probably leave the vacation early. Now here we see Victoria talking to what looks to be Piper from the back of this shot here, that nobody has lived a better life than they have. Now that's a pretty arrogant thing to say, but I'm thinking that Piper is finally going to admit to her mother that she didn't enjoy her sleepover at the monastery and she plans to head back home with her family. Now, if you all have been watching my breakdowns, you know my stance, you know my theory about how I feel Timothy will be poisoning his family, thinking that he's relieving them from the suffering back home, but I think the way that it's framed in this trailer, it might be a misdirect. I say that because literally we open this trailer with him talking to Pam about the suicide tree and the poison fruit, and now they're showing us the blender. It almost seems too obvious. Again, I spoke about this more in my breakdown of episode 7, but I feel like Timothy is going to make a smoothie for his family for them to consume, and before he does the whole Jonestown situation, he's going to take an important call, and he's going to find out that the case back home has been dismissed, and when he comes back into the room to share the good news, it's going to be too late. Now, my only issue with this theory is I don't know how quickly the poison sets in. Like, I don't know if it's like once you instantly drink it, you're going to pass out and die, or if you drink it, you can go to the hospital, get your stomach pumped. But either way, if this isn't a misdirect from the trailer and we do see Timothy and the smoothie and him giving it to his family, I think we're going to see either all of them die or maybe a select group of them die, that being maybe we see Saxton, Piper, Victoria, and I think that I have another theory I'm going to share with you all about Lachlan, but either that core group of the family is going to die or one of them going to die, and right now I'm putting my money on Saxton being the one that's going to die due to the smoothie. Now, as we come to an end of this trailer, we have Timothy saying to someone that he loves them so much. Now, could he be saying this after maybe hearing the good news of the case, or is this him finally confessing to his family what's happening back home? I'm gonna go with this is Timothy finally confessing to his family about the truth, and I actually think that Saxon's in this scene because I think that's his hand on his back trying to comfort his dad. Now here we get these super quick shots of us finally catching up to our first scene of episode 1 of the actual shootout. Now here's an interesting shot. We got my boy Frank, who seems to be stabbing some type of mannequin as he's wearing his underwear. Now look, Frank is a wild boy, so I have no idea what's going on, but I'm going to take a crazy guess at what's happening here. Now it looks like the mannequin's wearing some type of jacket that has bullet holes in it, so could he be showing Rick that he's got like a bulletproof jacket that he wants to offer him for his protection, to protect him from bullets obviously, but then he's showing him that it won't protect him from like close contact with someone, for example, someone using a knife. Again, you never know what's going on when Frank's involved, but either way, this just gives me hope that he will be involved in the finale, and hopefully he has a big role in the finale as well. Now, this was an interesting shot because we have this really strange close-up to someone's neck. Now, I'm no neck expert, but based on what we see here, it looks like the person doesn't have a beard clearly, but it also looks like it could be a male character. And based on the smoothness of their neck, I'm going to go with this being Lachlan. Now, here we see someone in the water and they look to be drowning. Now, I don't think this is the same waters we saw the dead body in episode 1 because this looks like much deeper waters. Now, I think this might have connections to the opening title sequence of every episode where we see someone in the water being attacked by sea creatures. Now, I said this a couple weeks ago. I think it was either episode 5 or 6. I think that Lachlan will be that person that's seen in the water being attacked by these sea creatures. My reason being, if you go back to, again, I think it was episode 5 or 6. It was the episode before, it was the episode when he kissed his brother. we see him wearing a shirt with alligators on it, but also in the opening credits, his name comes up with the person seen in the water and appearing to be dead. Now here we see Gaitak running with a gun in his hand, so he might show an ounce of violence in the finale. And finally we end with what I'm assuming is the season's main death, and most likely the same person we saw in the water in the premiere episode that was dead. Now let's go full CSI Sherlock Holmes here. Now, based on the little that we can see from the person laying dead in the water. Now, we don't know if this person was shot or poisoned, so the cause of death is still up in the air, but I'm going to go with this is a person that was shot. Now, to me, they seem to have darker hair, and I'm going to say they have black hair, and personally, I believe this is 100% a male character. Now, looking at the hair, looking at the outfit and the shirt they're wearing, I'm going to say that unfortunately, I think this person who's not a believer in violence is our victim, and I'm going to say that that's Gaitak. Now, also going back to the whole hair and what that person's wearing, this could also be Rick, just looking at this shot again and knowing that the whole bad luck superstition that Chelsea has, maybe this is the third strike that she was afraid of. As we end with Pam telling Timothy,
Have a wonderful last day.
now knowing that this is the official last day, maybe when we saw Timothy crying and saying that he loves this person so much and me thinking that maybe he got the call about what's going on back home, maybe the very next day he does decide to make the smoothies. But again, going back to knowing that this is the last day, this to me confirms that they actually get their phones back as well. That being said, that plays into my theory about him finally looking at all the missed calls and the voicemails and waiting to the last minute to listen to them. And again, knowing that he spoke to them at night to his family, maybe confessing what's going on back home, makes his smoothies. That's where my head's at right now, that he confessed to his family, he feels bad, he finally decided that he wants to take them out and he's made the smoothies. So with all that being said, I'm going to make it official now, and I think that this season finale will have the most deaths of any season so far. Season 1, we got 1 death. Season 2, we got 4 deaths. If you think about Tanya, she shot 3 of the guys on the boat, so we got 4 people that died in season 2. And I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that we're going to get maybe double that. We're going to get 8 deaths in this week's finale. So breaking down the math, I'm going to say 2, if not 3 of our main characters die in the finale, and my 2 to 3 characters being Gaitak by being shot. I think Lachlan's going to drown, and I think he's going to get attacked by one of the sea creatures that's going to eat him. And then I'm going to say maybe Saxton dies by death by smoothie. And I think that some of the Hollinger's bodyguards are going to get killed because, again, the monkeys will get a hold of one of the guns and they're just going to be shooting a bunch of people. And those bunch of people will be Hollinger bodyguards. Watch I be wrong and no one of importance dies in this finale, but neither here nor there. This was a very exciting and dark and very fun trailer that has some really great standout moments. And again, I want to remind you all, the season finale will be an hour and a half long. Now, I've shared some of my predictions along the way in this breakdown, but depending on time, I might make a separate video going more in depth, like character by character with predictions and theories leading up to this week's finale. So make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification, that way you don't miss out on any of my coverage for The White Lotus. Now, I'll pose this in my breakdown of episode 7, but I want to make sure that you all would be interested in this. Would you all want me to A, host a live watch party for the hour and a half long finale, or would you all rather me host a live after show immediately after the finale, or, I mean, hey, maybe you want me to do both. Either way, let me know, again, if you want me to host a live watch party, a live after show, or possibly both. Let me know in the comments below. Which, speaking of comments, go ahead and let me know your comments about this trailer in the comments below. What are your thoughts? What are your theories after watching this latest trailer? Again, make sure to check out my latest breakdown of episode 7, which can be found in the description of this video, but also on the screen now. Thank you all again for watching this breakdown of this trailer. I might have another video coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. But if not, either way, thank you again. Don't forget, you all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.